Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow, and I am back with an all-new video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the veil energy read into the former United Kingdom Prime Minister, a man by the name of Boris Johnson. And even though this is an energy read into his energy, while I was connected to it, a great number of other interesting things had come in. So even if you think you may not be interested in this video, I think you will. So I dare you to stick around, watch this video through, and see if you enjoyed it. And let me know at the end. Now, before we dive into the energy read on Bojo, we're first going to start by looking into some very small, minuscule amount of three-dimensional information as to who he is. And again, I remind you, I just copied like the first paragraph of his Wikipedia page. So here we go. Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. And two-person personal opinion, I don't know why anyone would go by Boris when you can go by Alexander. Like, that's a gangster name, like Alex Johnson. No. Anyway, I digress. Born on June 19th, 1964, is a British politician and writer who served as Prime Minister of the UK and leader of the Conservative Party from 2019 until 2022. He was previously Foreign Secretary from 2016 until 2018, and prior to that he had served as the Mayor of London from 2018 until 2016. As of 2021, he had an estimated net worth of $4 million. Now, even though $4 million is certainly nothing to sneeze at, and it's $4 million more than I have currently, it's not quite as much as some of the other people that we have looked at previously. So we're going to be exploring pretty early on if this is an indication that he is or is not in the club. So if you yourself are like $4 million, I don't know about that, he answers the question right up top. Because as soon as I connected to Boris Johnson's energy, he laughed. Not like at me. Not like, ha ha ha, you so funny. Even though I am. But he laughed. And the reason that he had laughed, aside from my inherent humor, is because he asked me, quote, how in the world does anyone think this shite, as in this shit, is real anymore? End quote. Because, according to Boris Johnson, it is obvious how every member of governments around the world, not just in the United Kingdom, but around the world, are owned and operated and are part of the club. Because he asks me rhetorically, isn't it obvious how our governments are working against us, irrespective of what country it is, or what part of the world it is? To him, anyway, it certainly appears to be rather obvious that our officials don't like us much, and they certainly do not care about us. So the way he had shown this to me, the way in which government officials, irrespective of what country they are affiliated to, he showed it to me as such. Imagine that all of us, all of the citizens of various countries around the world, are in a fishbowl. It's a big ass motherfucking fishbowl, right? 99% of the population can fit in this fishbowl. However, who's not in the fishbowl? It's the 1%. And who's the 1%? The elites, the government officials, anyone that's in the club, right? So they are all outside of this fishbowl. So while he's showing me the representation of this being in the fishbowl, Bojo comes over to the glass on the fishbowl. He knocks on it. He knocks on the glass of the fishbowl and he asks, quote, while looking into it, is anyone awake yet? End quote. And then he falls into a fit of laughter, and he laughs and laughs like a fool. And then him and his buddies, the elites and the 1%ers, they walk away patting each other on the backs and laughing at our incompetence. And then they go to a pub and they have a drink, and they care not for how we struggle for our survival on a daily basis, or how we struggle just to make ends meet, or how we live in squalor in a fishbowl while they live in gated communities and separate and other from us, and separate and distinct from how their policies negatively impact us. Because they are out of the fishbowl and we aren't. They're not even impacted by their own policies. And what he also had shown to me was, in addition to this fishbowl being hella big, that 99% of the population could fit into it, the walls on the fishbowl are so high that there is no way that we can even climb out of it. Or is there really no way? There is one way. But it's a way that has been previously unexplored. What does it entail? Us all working together. So imagine, if you will, if we all worked together and we all supported one another and could encourage one another, and if we could join hands and help one another climb onto our shoulders, right? Kind of think of like making a human pyramid. You got like, I don't know, 50 people on the bottom, and then the next layer on top has 35, and then the next layer on top has like 30, and then 25, and then 20, and then 15, and then maybe if we all joined hands together and we all stood together and we could create a strong, solid foundation together, maybe then there are those that could climb, not like literally climb over us, not climbing onto our backs, but where we are creating a strong enough foundation where we can support those and we can uplift them, and then we can get them up, and then they can do the same and they can pay it forward until we've done this enough that someone can grab a hold of the top of that fishbowl and they can climb out of it. Imagine that. Us joining hands and helping one another climb. For us to take the weaker than us and to put them on our shoulders, to support them and to help them elevate themselves, to become stronger, and to help others get on their shoulders then thereafter. And on it goes until the end result of all of us working together is that we can get out of the fishbowl. But no, because we're so busy being stirred up into a tizzy with race wars and hatred and division and critical race theory and us versus them mentality across state lines and country lines and police and citizenry and the amount of melanin in our skin. I actually just did a rather extensive deep dive into this. If you have not yet seen it, please go back and watch the video that I had done and the behind the veil explanation of war, because I have done an extensive deep dive into it and why there is such an overproliferation of race wars, both on a macro and on a micro scale. I did that backwards. On a micro and then a macro scale. Because if we're too busy hating one another and we're too busy seeing what separates us instead of what defines us and unites us, right? We're all citizens of the world. Who the fuck cares what country you're from or what color your skin is? Or we have one common enemy. It's the cabal. It's the 1%. But we're kept in such a low vibration and hating on each other, we're never actually given the opportunity to unite. Because, as the saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall. So it behooves them to keep us hating on each other So that way we can't band together and we can't climb out of the metaphorical fishbowl. And we are so immersed in our own everyday survival that it seems nearly impossible to have the bandwidth to reach our hand out and to help another. And thus, Bojo had shown me that while they're inciting all of these race wars, like literally imagine you're putting protein powder into milk. You don't want to like drink that milk and have globs of protein powder in it. So what do? You're mixing it up. So that's kind of what they do with us with race wars. They put us all into this big, fishbowl, and then they just do this. They incite all of these race wars and all of this violence where we're hating on each other. And then while we're so busy hating on each other and fighting each other, what do? They're slowly but surely starting to lower the height of the walls on the fishbowl. It's diversion. It's look here, not there. You don't see what we're doing because you hate each other so much. But while you hate each other, we're just lowering the wall of the fishbowl and you don't even notice. And then they laugh at us even more. Look at the fools, haha, like we're monkeys in a zoo. Look at the monkeys in the zoo. Look how they're fighting. And they don't even see that they could just climb out of the fishbowl. So, ever so slowly, while we are worked up into a tizzy, they continue to lower and lower and lower the wall of the fishbowl until we stop even looking at the walls of the fishbowl because we forgot that there is a fishbowl in the first place. We don't even see it any longer. The wall of the fishbowl is so low that at this point we could literally walk up to it, put one leg over it, and just step right over it. That's how low the fishbowl is. But we have been trained not to see the fishbowl any longer. Therefore, they're not even worried about us. Or so they claim. Because in actuality, us waking up is their biggest fear. Because there's more of us than them. So if we all banded together, we would overthrow our evil warlords. But they keep us in a low vibration and they keep us in a tizzy so we don't see that the walls of the fishbowl are so low, you could just walk right up to it, put one foot over it, and free you would be. But here's the thing. Despite them fearing us waking up, it's already too late for them because we are waking up and we are waking up en masse. Too bad for them. There are those of us, while they are too busy patting each other on the back, laughing at our expense and going to a pub to drink a pint, thinking that we're just hating on each other so much we can't even see a way out of it. While all of this is going on, wake up, we have begun. And many of us, in fact, have started to look around and realized, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to buy into this. I can walk right up to that, walk right out, and I can pave my own way. Yes. And many of us are waking out and climbing out of the fishbowl because I remind you again, the walls are so damn low. Many of us are homesteading, homeschooling, deciding to move off of the grid, or we are withdrawing our attention from the matrix, or we are no longer investing our time and energy into celebrity culture, or we're not watching movies, or not reading the rag mags, or we're not investing our attention into what legacy media claims any longer, or we are cleaning up our diets and we're no longer eating the garbage food that they're poisoning us with. We're educating ourselves on natural cures and remedies. There's any number of ways, big and small, that represent us waking up at this time and climbing out of the metaphorical fishbowl. And as we are starting to withdraw our attention and climb out of the fishbowl, we are learning to live a life of passion and purpose and meaning, and no longer just about our survival. And guys, believe it or not, just by doing so, even if we think that people do not see it, and even if we think that people are not waking up to it, even those that are still in the fishbowl, just like those outside of the fishbowl can look in to it, those in the fishbowl can also look out of it. So even if we think people don't see, even if we think people aren't waking up, guess what, guys? They are. They can see us living a life of passion and purpose and meaning, living in service to others, no longer living in servitude, cleaning up our vibration, and therefore they see it can in fact be done, even if you think they don't see it. So if you are one that is outside of the fishbowl and you needed encouragement to know, keep going, this is for you. Keep going. Even though I know it's kind of like a jack-in-the-box. Once the spring, the arm on a jack-in-the-box, once it breaks, you can't stuff that jack back into the box. It's like once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep, right? But some of us, if you've been awake for a really long time, you get black-pilled. You're like, what am I doing with this being awake? It hasn't benefited me. It hasn't changed my life. My life's no better. Nobody's waking up. This is just the way the world has always been. This is just the way the world is always going to be. That's kind of like being black-pilled. So you're not waking up. You're just getting pulled over to Team Dark Side once again. But it's because you've been awake for so long that you fail to see the progress and the strides that we are all making. Just look around, guys. Even if you're still seeing people that are in the fishbowl, you can see them. That means they can see you. That means we can lead by example and we can show them that it can be done. So again, if you are outside of the fishbowl, keep going. Because we do not know who sees us and how our actions, no matter how big or small, are going to inspire them. And even if people do not reach out to us and ask us how we can climb out of the fishbowl, or how we ourselves had climbed out of the fishbowl, or if they reach out to ask us for help, they still see us. So keep going. Because I remind you, the 1%ers and the elite, many of them are too busy tapping each other on the back, laughing at our misfortune and thinking we're a lost cause. And this is how we overthrow them. This is how we top them, by living a life of meaning, purpose, and passion. Whether or not we think anybody sees our efforts, they do and they know. So keep going. And Bojo, he forgot about us already. He's in the pub. Let's leave him there. And let's climb out of that fishbowl. So this concludes the brief energy read on Bojo and a whole lot of other goods that came out of it. I encourage you to please take what resonates and to leave the rest behind. And if you want to gain some further context on some of the concepts that we have been discussing in this video, I have linked some other videos down below in which you can view additional context that is going to help you put all of the pieces together and to come to understand the world that we currently live in. And this is your reminder, as always, until next time and every moment in between, to stay in the high vibration.